Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's live. We're going to be talking a little bit about health, fitness, exercise, and basically what we're doing right and wrong at home right now in terms of keeping fit. So I brought on one of my trainers a few weeks ago. His name is Eric, but today we are speaking with his partner and coach and co-owner and whatever other title you have, Brandon, you can tell us. Over at Relentless Strength and Performance. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Brandon on and we're going to have a little chat about health and nutrition. Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm coming to terms with the fact that I need to use all my AC units in my house now. So I don't have it on right now, but I anticipate, getting a good sweat during this live.
Yeah, Eric and I had a meeting this morning, and he just told me how he didn't sleep at all last night because he hasn't put his ACs in yet.
So, I have 1 out of 3, so.
You have window units? Like you gotta actually put them in, or you just gotta turn them on?
I have 2 window units downstairs that I need my Eric to help me put into the windows, but I have like a big standing unit up here in the attic. So at least I have the one in the hottest room of the house.
Yes. There you go. Yeah, my twins were sweating like crazy yesterday because they were sleeping all day, and we took the window AC out, so now we have to like rush to get a split unit put in there or something like that. So
Gotcha.
Not forward to it, but it's nice out, so we can't complain too much.
Definitely. Yeah. So before we get into a ton of questions and conversation, would you mind going a little bit into the background of how you got into health and fitness and a little bit about Relentless?
Wow, how deep should we go?
As deep as you'd like. There is no time frame on this live.
Okay. Well, the twins will be up in about an hour and a half, so I'll try to keep something, under that.
You got it.
So most people don't know. I'll start from the beginning. I'll kind of fast forward, I guess, into Relentless. But essentially, I was actually, you might have guessed this, but I was a very overweight kid most of my life. I could easily house 3-4 Big Macs in a single sitting. And then just spend the next couple of hours writhing in pain on the couch. That was most of my childhood, tucking my my t-shirts into my jeans, getting made fun of at school. That was me. So I actually started playing sports, basketball, like 7th, 8th grade, made a ton of friends, pretty much lost all of that weight inside of like a summer just by kind of forgetting to eat, honestly, and playing tons of basketball almost over an entire summer. And then also puberty is just like the best thing in the world for, growing a foot and a half and leaning out. So started playing sports, played football in high school, only 3 years because I broke my thumb actually playing football. My freshman year couldn't play, played 4 years of college football, and kind of fell in love with the training more than actually, although I did love playing football, but I fell in love with the training actually more than the actual playing. I really enjoyed going out on Sundays, competing with, with my best friends and whatnot. But it was really the training in the gym, sprinting and stuff like that, mechanics, et cetera, that I really got kind of hooked on. So that started me there during my undergrad, probably my sophomore year. Yeah, sophomore year, because freshman year I was trying to go into like physical therapy, and it just wasn't going to work out at Cortland when I actually transferred out from my freshman year of school to Cortland, SUNY Cortland, where I then graduated from. But I was going into like athletic training essentially, and it just wasn't going to work out. Fell in love with training, like I said. So I got a degree in kinesiology. I started training people one-on-one mostly during my undergrad and have just continued ever since. Now, for I think it was about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 4 years after I graduated, I coached people in a one-on-one setting, mostly like out of a CrossFit or something like that in my hometown, and eventually caved because it was almost impossible to get clients on my own. Caved and went to like a big box gym up in Garden City where my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, lived. So big box gym in Garden City, relatively affluent area. And absolutely crushed it, So I had an awesome group of people, a client base. So I was able to kind of create the life and the schedule that I wanted over those 3 years, really get my toes wet, coaching, programming, developing systems, etc. For people. And it was such a good experience because it was one-on-one. The people were so great. So they were, there wasn't a whole lot of turnover. And, it was kind of people in the 50 to 65-year-old range. So relatively banked up from a lifetime of either sitting at a desk or working like, a crazy job or something like that. So it kind of forced me to sharpen my knife in the, mobility, recovery kind of pain spectrum, essentially. So while it's not like my wheelhouse and I'm not licensed or anything like that in things like that, like a physical therapist would be or a chiropractor or something like that, kind of forced me to think outside the box for years, to get people the results that they wanted, without getting them banged up. And that's essentially like our tagline now for Relentless. So when I was done, I had it with like the corporate grind, working 12 to 15-hour days. I decided to try and see if I can do this on my own, which was kind of the plan. It just happened to be like 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was enough. At the time, I was training in strongman, just trying to find something after I had graduated to compete in. So I was training in strongman, competing, a couple times a year, and I was training at a gym that Eric used to coach at. So we were kind of training partners in like the crazy 7 p.m. crew that, we can tell you some stories about. But so I was training there for strongman. He was training in powerlifting, and he was on the outs with his boss. There was some stuff going on that we can't get into today, but it just wasn't the right fit for him. Wasn't the right fit for me, and I was looking for a partner. So I actually did some interviews with my best friend at the time. He just wasn't ready for it. So I spoke to Eric, and essentially we kind of came to the conclusion that we both weren't happy where we were at. So we were at the perfect time, in both of our lives, in our careers. And we essentially decided on us being good partners for each other because we had said we knew that we could trust each other in a bar fight. Like if one of us had to throw down or something like that in a bar, we knew that we would have each other's backs. Now, I do have to say, we've been at this for 5 years together now. A bar fight would have been a lot easier at some points. Now is certainly one of those points, but it's been an awesome 5 years. Wouldn't have changed anything for the world. It's been such a growing experience. But essentially, what we did was kind of take our two worlds, mine being the more one-on-one situation, and then Eric's where he had more like larger group, where he might have had 20 people in a given group, where it wasn't as customized. Whereas in personal training, we customize everything, from the top down, but it's just way more expensive. We kind of mash those two worlds together into a semi-private offering that is both, crazy customized. So we get people, the results that they want, and the attention that they need, but at a much more affordable price point. You're not paying $80 to $150 a session, essentially. So that's where we were. We kind of started with training athletes that Eric had contacts from before, and then some regular everyday people that I had. We kind of started in like powerlifting essentially, and it kind of just grew into this this business where we kind of went for people instead of like what people were training for. So a lot of times people ask like, oh, who do you train? Baseball players, football players, whatever. And we kind of saw it as a type of person and not necessarily the thing that they train for. So we came up with the name Relentless Strength Performance simply because we know that it takes a relentless effort. Not necessarily the best effort every day, not perfect, just relentless. It has to be every day the best that you got that day, to get better. And I think that kind of lives on in all the people that we have, because we have like our attrition rate is so low, like hardly anybody leaves. And I think it's just kind of tells you about the community that we've built and the values that we've built it on, together, is that everybody's just kind of in it for the long haul. Even during crazy times like this, everybody's been so awesome. So again, I like to ramble on about stuff, so I think we should probably just cut it there.
Well, we are going to get into some of the philosophies on how you guys train and everything, but I think that's a really good basis to kind of get your journey in fitness, as well as how Relentless came to be. Because I know personally, as obviously someone that goes to Relentless, before I was going to Relentless, I had a Planet Fitness membership. I hadn't been going to the gym. And, I found you guys in the middle of a fair on the street. So when I came to your facility, the fact that it was semi-private was like, it was basically what I needed in a gym. And I know not all gyms do that. Like it has that custom for me plan, but like I don't have one like standing over me the whole time, because obviously there's a bunch of other people, and it gives me room to learn, but also get everything, checked and make sure that my form is correct. So like how did you guys come up with that like semi-private like system more so?
Well, I think just from a more philosophical standpoint, it was literally just it was kind of like an adapt or die situation, because um, personal training is a luxury that very few can afford. Number one, just from like, again, if you were to buy a package of personal training sessions, it's cheapest it's going to be in this area is like $80 to $90 a session, and that's not 2 3 days a week. It's not really feasible for a whole lot of people. So we're not able to help. We're able to help a very few amount of people, like a tremendous amount. And what we wanted to do was help more people, like still a tremendous amount, maybe not as much as it would be for personal training. But honestly, I think the more that we do this, I think we help people more, because like you were saying, it's fantastic to build a really deep relationship with, one-on-one person between a trainer and a coach. It's even better to build that relationship between a coach and 100 other people, so we can affect so many more lives. So from a philosophical standpoint, it actually was born out of that. It was like saving our clients money, getting them almost all of the stuff that they wanted to get done anyway. And in all honesty, from a fiscal standpoint for the gym, it's just not possible to build the business and the life that a coach would want to live doing one-on-ones. Like, you're charging people more and you're making less, and not helping as many people, So I just had 2 kids, as you know, in October. Our first 2, they're like 6-7 months now. There's absolutely no way that I'd be able to be coaching 8 to 12 sessions a day to try and make ends meet. There was a ceiling that the only way that you can break through it was to charge people more than they could possibly imagine or afford, and to just work more hours, which was crazy. So at this point in our lives, I think we're trying to work smarter, get people everything they want to get done, and not absolutely destroy our families while we do it. So that's kind of where it came from.
Well, also, I think that everyone who obviously is in those sessions likes the community of like everyone working out at the same time as them. They may not be doing the same thing, but it's kind of like a motivation in a way, because you see everyone else doing it.
Yeah, I think that was a really convenient, like we knew about that, like the environment and the community that we could possibly build, because we had been a part of that in our own training and whatnot. But I mean, I'm 30, I think Eric's 32, 33, something like that. So we haven't owned a business with a bunch of people where we can see some things like that kind of come to fruition over time. So like, community is not built overnight, it's built over years. So I don't know that we understood the how impactful that part of the entire business and service would be in the first place. And that's what I was going to say. It's great to build a deep relationship, between 2 people, but the community that we've built, like minus Eric and myself, like we essentially were the catalyst for it. But all the people that kind of get along in the gym, now they like go to each other's like kids' birthday parties, and like buying each other dogs and stuff. Like it's crazy. It's weird. But it's awesome. We get every one of our parties, we get like 80 people in a room, and everybody's just like so cool. Like, it's a tiny little family that for us is now the most important part of the business, honestly, beyond like the X's and O's of programming and whatever. It's the community that we've built, that we will never let go of. Like, programs can come and go, techniques come and go. We learn new stuff. We honestly, Eric and I both have forgotten more than we will use in a lifetime, honestly, in terms of training and whatnot. But the community has just been of the utmost importance for us, obviously.
Definitely. So we're gonna kind of shift over to the world of home whatever we're calling this right now, quarantine, working out at home. I wanted to get your opinion on how to kind of work on accountability at home, because, you know, like one of the biggest things, and a couple people I mentioned you were going to be on here, their biggest problem with getting the workouts done is accountability. And I know I haven't been super great on my workouts either, but how would you recommend kind of like working towards getting back into the swing of, you know, getting active?
Yeah, I think if we were to ask, and we do ask, you know, we put out surveys and questionnaires and stuff constantly. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking for feedback from our community. Um, so if you were to ask, like, what are you struggling with most right now? Accountability is absolutely the number one thing, you know, 10 times over. Um, you know, accountability essentially is like the glue in between all the little things that we try to piece together. And I'll tell you, we've been struggling just as much, you know, trying to keep people accountable, because it's it's hard enough to keep yourself accountable or keep others accountable when you have like a person standing in a room waiting for you because you signed in and there's an appointment there, you know. So that's hard enough to get people to show up. And that was, you know, that was one of the things that I would say from a personal training standpoint. That's when I would ask, you know, just one-on-one clients, hey, what's like the best thing that we do? And he's like, they're like, honestly, I'm working 60 hours a week. Just knowing that if I don't show up to this session that we scheduled, uh, like I'm just gonna leave you there hanging. Like that's crazy. Hardly any people do it. They do it, but hardly anybody actually does that. So just having that kind of hanging over your head is enough to get it done most of the time. That's all we really need, is to get it done most of the time. That being said, when we had our semi-private sessions, you had to sign in for a given session. It was on the schedule. We saved a spot for you in that session. So while some people still, you know, it still wasn't perfect, um, it was on your schedule. It was at before work or after work, before dinner, after dinner. This is what you did. Here was your schedule. You were there, and that was it. And we've all lost that. So essentially, we've lost all the action triggers that come from, you know, before we take any action. Essentially, for example, there would be like, if your kids go to school and, you know, I don't know, they get out of school at 3 o'clock and you got to go pick them up. How do you know to go pick them up at 3 o'clock every day? I don't know. Maybe you set an alarm. Maybe it's like, it's the thing that you do as soon as you stop working for the day at 2:30. I don't know. But there's always something that precedes something else. You know, getting home from work, bam, to the gym. There's always that action trigger, and they've all just been mushed up for everybody. So it's really hard for us for us to hold other people accountable, and for people to hold themselves accountable as well. Um, so what we've done is that we've created this online schedule. So we have live workouts via Zoom that are the same time, you know, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in the morning and in the evenings, that provide some sort of kind of order for people to create their new schedules around. Now, was it perfect in the beginning? No. Is it getting better now? Definitely. But just to have something on the schedule with someone else to kind of hold you accountable is the best way to go about things at this point. But if you can't make those types of things, it's best to create, like I said, those action triggers and something external from you that will make sure that you do those things. It doesn't have to be another person. It could be, you know, a schedule on your, or in like a planner. Like I use a planner. It could be a schedule on a planner. It could be something up on the fridge. You know, it could be an alarm. You know, that's a really good thing. Like literally just the snap of an alarm that just says work out. Maybe you don't work out every single time, but I guarantee you're going to work out more than if you had not set the alarm in the first place. So um, essentially just set action triggers. Like decide, look at what your day is right now. Maybe you're going crazy and working like, you know, mad from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You don't have to get a 60-minute workout in. Maybe you set that action trigger when I'm done at 7 o'clock. There's an alarm that goes off and I do a 10-minute workout real quick. There just has to be a time, and there has to be something external from you, not just the feeling of I'm going to work out today.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say, I'm going to work out today. I'm going to put that somewhere here, external from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time you look at it or it pings like an alarm, you're more apt to go do that workout or something like that. Food, whatever it happens to be.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know that a lot of people had a really difficult time grasping a home schedule. So even what you said, like having like a little planner or something like that, even if it's just an alarm system on your phone or a reminder system, definitely will help you kind of remember to do the things within the day. Because, it might be 10 o'clock at night and you're like, oh, wait, I was supposed to work out today. Oh, all right, whatever. I'll just get to it tomorrow. And then you forget tomorrow. That's probably one of the bigger problems that people are having. But I want to take a step back because you mentioned the Zoom schedule that you guys are doing. And that kind of segues into what I want to ask you about next, which I know with the Zooms, you can check the form of all of your clients. But for people that are home, how how should they go about safely like doing their workouts if they have trouble checking their form?
Well, I think the same way that anybody would if they don't have a coach, or dare I say, and I'm not going to put myself on, us on too high of the pedestal here. There are a lot of people who don't really know what good form looks like.
Hmm.
But that being said, although it is definitely important, it's more important to do something than it is to not do something because you're afraid of getting hurt. I'll tell you
Hmm.
right now, like, yeah, do people get hurt doing all kinds of stuff? Yes, they absolutely do. Do we minimize it at Relentless? Absolutely, we do. But that being said, there are millions of people that exercise every single day on their own
Hmm.
with like not the best technique in the world, but they're totally fine. So we try to tell our people all the time, like the fear avoidance that comes with certain exercises, let's say, or activities, whatever. Like I can't go hiking because I'm going to hurt my knees. The fear avoidance is going to cause more pain when you go hiking than the actual hiking in and of itself most of the time. So the first thing I would say is just get moving. Just do something. It doesn't have to be a max back squat, obviously. Just do something. Most of the time, if you're just handling your body weight, which most people are today anyway, it's very hard to hurt yourself. Even if you have piss poor technique, it's very hard to hurt yourself, even just using your body weight. That being said, after you get that, you're actually going and doing something and moving. Um, if you really want, you can video yourself. So Eric and I have been training doing this stuff for years, most of our lives. So we can video ourselves, which we have to actually do because we can't see it. And then we can talk to each other, our coaches, because both of us have coaches all the time. And we can kind of compare and see if it's changed or like something feels off, let's say. So you can video yourself and then go back and look at it. That's assuming that you know what good technique looks like, which can take, like an easy YouTube video. If you go like on our YouTube channel, we have a bunch of videos up now that give you all the cues that you would need to stay safe. So you can certainly do that. Or you could obviously, reach out to us. We have a free week of our virtual training membership right now, and we would be happy to do it. Or we can just hop on a one-on-one Zoom or something to help fix technique on some things. But if you're not doing any of that, I would say just keep it light, relatively light. Use mostly body weight. Very, very, very hard to do anything terribly risky with just your body weight.
All right, that makes sense. And I know that a lot of people also just they don't have equipment right now. So body weight is better than doing it with no weight, or you can grab things from around the house to, use as equipment.
Mhm.
So I know I've seen people do things with like backpacks full of soup cans and things like that. Are there any certain things that you guys have been having some of the clients do, whether it's with using furniture, using things around? I know that you guys have been doing a lot with bands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Eric touched on this as well. We lent out a lot of
Hmm.
most of our equipment from the
Hmm.
gym to all of our clients. So it's been pretty easy to get people, almost back into the same exact program that they were doing while we were open at Relentless. Now, we don't have access. Most people don't have access to like a wide array of dumbbells or kettlebells or plates or something like that. So they might be working with more weight than somebody who doesn't have any equipment, but it's the same weight. So it's hard to vary things. So what we've been doing, yeah, beyond like the bands and kettlebells and dumbbells and stuff like that, like we're doing this week, is that we're using tempos, varying tempos to challenge things. So it's not all about weight. It's not all about reps. It's not all about sets all the time. Another way that you can easily stay safe while you're and challenge yourself while using body weight is to use isometrics, where you're not moving. So like if a set of body weight squats for 10 is not very challenging, well, I try 5-second pausing in the bottom every single time. Try doing a set of 10 and then hold the bottom for 30 seconds, things like that. Or you can go 5 seconds or even longer on the way down and or the way up. So you can definitely, we're varying tempos to change things and keep people safe as well when we're not like right there to help them. The slower you move, the more challenging it's going to be and the safer you're going to be. So we're trying our best not to get like crazy gimmicky with, because as soon as the quarantine started, you saw crazy fitness videos of people like squatting their couch and like, yeah, sure. Like we made some funny videos about squatting dogs and babies and things like that. But I can't like wake up my baby girls to go do squats, a set of squats, every single time. So I think it was much like anything in the fitness industry. It's like something new. And we're like, oh, I want to be the first to figure this out. And look at this. You can like take your TV off the wall and it weighs 60 pounds. So you can, overhead press it. That's just crazy. You might as well just use what you have at your disposal, not make things as complicated as we possibly could. Because we can make things super complicated, but a lot of times, like, complex problems like the one we're dealing with right now require the simplest solution. So we would rather just see people work out consistently and do the same damn thing. Just do the same thing over and over again. It doesn't even matter, because the problem isn't exercise selection. It's not the equipment that you have. It's like we said before, it's accountability and actually getting things done consistently. So beyond that, we're trying our best not to really get stuck in the weeds there with like exercise selection and
Yeah, a lot of people think it's more so the exercise selection that makes the workout, but it's really, like you said, it's making sure it gets done. And that could be anything from going for a run to doing, I don't know, curls in your basement. So
yeah, I think that the most important thing for most people, just to beat a dead horse like I really love to do, is to just get something in. And I'm not sitting here again, in an ivory tower saying that I get my workouts in every single day. I set a goal, like I said, I have my planner, like every day. Here's my schedule, and I have 3 wins for every single day. Every single day, one of my big 3 wins is to exercise. Does it happen every day? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My program is a 6-day-a-week program right now. Am I getting all 6 days in? Nope. Definitely not. But what I will say is that if I catch myself like on a day where I'm supposed to exercise, and I didn't, let's say I had a lift in, like this happened Friday and Saturday. Okay. For whatever reason, I got the girls' teeth are coming in. So like they're not sleeping as well throughout the day. Crazy tiring. Something like pops up, like, I forgot what happened the other day, but there was my sprinklers. Like the sprinklers weren't working. Absolutely crazy. So I spent all day where I was supposed to lift outside with a sprinkler guy who can't figure the damn thing out. So what am I supposed to do? Not work out? I was like, yeah, definitely could. Put the girls down at 10 o'clock. And instead of going straight to bed, what I did was grab the kettlebell. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go outside. That's what I did. I went outside, got a kettlebell. I did 10 to 1. So 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way down to 1. One arm swings into arm overhead press on each side. Took me about 7 minutes. Got my heart rate up. Felt really good. Actually, I've been like sitting most of the day. So like my hips felt fantastic. Shoulder felt good. Like 10 minutes, hopped in the shower to rinse off and went to bed. It was like 7 minutes, but it kept the habit open. So it's you're not letting all the shit that's just flying around, excuse my language, all the stuff that's flying around going crazy, tell you what to do. It's just about, keeping the habit open. And just for another example, when the gym was open, I can't tell you how many times, a surprising amount of times, people would come to the gym, walk in like in their work clothes after work and be like, I feel like absolute crap. I'm not going to work out today. I just wanted to show up. And I was like, see you next time. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. It doesn't have to be perfect every single time. You just got to show up. And I mean, like, show up for like 5 seconds. That's enough to keep the habit open, and that's what we got to do. That's really all we got to do right now is keep the habit open until all this crap, blows over. You can just hold on for just a little bit longer. Everyone's just going to pick up right where they left off, and it's just going to be fun.
Yeah, I know that I need to. I think the one thing that I need to do is like, now that I have all of the things in my show going and all of the things I was working on kind of managed, I think that that's one of the things I need to do. I need to start getting back into like the habit of, my 8 a.m. sessions that I used to be at.
You know what you should do is that while it's on the top of your mind, you should do 10 squats like right now.
Well, I'm not going to do them on camera because if it's bad, then you're going to watch me and you're going to comment. But we do actually have a comment from someone that is working out right now. It's from Eric Goodmark. I'm working out right now with my Relentless Strength and Performance Lone Barbell. Can I get a form check real quick, Brandon?
If Celia can make that happen, I will do a live form check right this second. Can that work?
Yeah, give me a sec.
Oh, let's do this.
I don't know if he's going to actually do it, but
I better.
I was thinking about doing the workout that you guys sent while on this stream, but I feel like I don't know how I feel about that.
You gotta do.
Yes, I know I gotta do. But let's move on to our a next topic. And one of the biggest things that apparently Eric is kidding. He said, "Geez."
Oh, he's such a baby.
I sent him the link though.
Oh man.
If he wants to get a form check, he can. But hopefully he does. He'll pop up in the bottom and then I can bring him on. But one of the biggest topics that people, I feel like they have been worrying about more so in quarantine than in a normal time is nutrition. And like people think they know like, oh, like, this diet works, that diet works, but like they don't know the breakdown of like what nutrition really is. Would you be able to kind of like explain a little bit about what makes up the idea of nutrition?
Sure.
Like,
yeah, that's
as in like the breakdown of like what the different parts of nutrition are, like protein and carbs and all of that kind of stuff.
I think your question is perfect because that's exactly how most people think about nutrition. It's just this like, it's this shiny word at the top of like all of these thoughts that aren't really kind of layered or connected into some sort of system or whatever that's going to work for them. People say, I exercise, I go to the gym, I do this, I do that, I did this many sets of this many, whatevers, and that's it. And then nutrition is just like proteins and carbs and like vitamins and stuff, I think. Also fiber. Like that's like carbs bad, fat bad, protein bad. I can't eat anything but water. So I think that's number one. Number two is that you started the question off by saying that everybody is now focusing on nutrition because they're home. And it's been such a weird thing. And we got kind of caught up in it too. We were like, you know what? Oh my God, like the gym is closing the doors. Like we have to take everything online. How do we get everybody like on track and over, essentially like serve people? And we realized really quickly, like, this is really stressful. Stress is not a stressful time is not a fantastic time to be adding new things or trying to make big changes, especially if they're complex. So I think first and foremost, I would say that people should just relax and not worry about trying to make all of these crazy changes. All of these changes, like we already established, if they were easy, then you would have done them beforehand when you weren't as stressed out. Now that everybody's so stressed out, there's no way that you're going to make those changes. Does that mean that you should just throw everything to the wayside? Absolutely not, of course. But like we said before, complex problems often require the simplest solutions. So when we're talking about trying to create a construct to work within in terms of nutrition, I think just like anything else, everything is kind of nested in consistency. So you have to be consistent, whatever it is. That's number one. If you eat 2 meals a day, fine. You eat 10 meals a day, fine. Also fine. No big deal. It just has to be consistent because you can't make changes to something that's always moving. So if you're just kind of, you eat like a cow, and I don't mean that like in a size or fat distribution type of thing, or that you have 4 stomachs. I mean that you're grazing constantly all day. There's no real plan to anything. Then you probably just want to kind of reel that in a tiny bit so you can start making changes. So the first change would be get consistent, just like anything else. So again, we come to our action triggers. Like, you wake up. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? I don't know. Maybe you go to the bathroom, have a cup of coffee, and then you make breakfast. Maybe you don't make breakfast. That's fine. But there should be an action trigger, a point where you eat your first meal, your second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever meal. So there should be a select time during the day. That's whether it's 20 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour, hour. I don't know. Maybe you enjoy sitting there, sucking on your food for an hour. Fine. But it should be consistent. And then you can start worrying about what actually makes up that meal. From here, that's where everything is just like absolute chaos, because everything works, nothing works. This is going to give you heart disease. That's the cure for this, and blah, 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 blah. It all works. It all works as long as you're consistent. Okay. People wouldn't have heard of any of these diets if they didn't actually work. Of course they work, because every single one of them is a way for you to decrease calories. Every single one. Every single one. Even the ones that claim that they don't decrease calories, or manage calories. Let's say, we're trying to build muscle, obviously. But we're assuming that we're looking at this through a lens of like losing weight, losing fat, getting leaner, something like that. Because generally we all just eat too many calories. So I'll say, first and foremost, create some sort of construct for you to work within. If you can fit in 3 meals a day, fine, get 3 meals a day. And then you can start prioritizing pieces of that meal. So for us, we like to break things down into 4 main components. That's a protein source, vegetable source, a fat, and a carbohydrate. We just did a pretty cool presentation last week for our clients on how we can actually manage those throughout the day, which we won't get into here. But essentially, you want to simplify things to make them repeatable, so that if you need to make changes, you can then make changes. So we recommend that most people, like I said, eat between 3 and 5 meals a day. We recommend that you try to get protein and a vegetable with every single meal. Notice I didn't say how much protein, because when you start getting to this point in the whole nutrition question, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As long as you're trying to get those things in and you do it consistently, you're going to be head and shoulders above where you were before. Then you can start worrying about, here's your fat component, here's your carb component for each one of those meals. If you eat 4 meals a day and you get a lean source of protein, like separate pieces, a lean source of protein, some vegetables, a little bit of fat, and a little bit of carbs, like, you're going to be, like I said, head and shoulders of where you're at. So I would say, to wrap it all up, simplify the hell out of everything. Number one, because this is the most stressful time for anybody to be trying to make any kind of changes. That's number one. If you are going to make a change, it has to be something that makes sense for you and your schedule and your preferences, etc. Unless your preferences are just eat like a gallon of, Rocky Road ice cream every single day. That's obviously not going to work. So then create that construct, and then you can make changes to it, as you go. I would hate to get into the nitty gritty of like macronutrients, micronutrients, how much protein per kilogram body weight, that kind of stuff. None of that stuff matters for 99% of the population, especially the ones that we work with, and especially at this time. Does that answer that question a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely answers the question. And I think a lot of what also goes along with that is, like you said, people need to like have a simple answer to fix these type of things. It's more so just also being conscious about what they are choosing to eat. Like, I know that you mentioned including like protein and things in their meals, but when they're going to the grocery store, they should be buying like things along the lines of vegetables and chicken and things like that will, in turn end up on their table, rather than, buying chips and different things like that. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. I would think something funny that you said there, and I do think it's pretty funny, is you said choose to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time believing that people choose really anything. Mostly people live their lives, and I don't just mean in terms of nutrition, with choices kind of being made for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too crazy, but right now is one of those times, for better or for worse. So that being said, usually life just happens to most people. And I know that for a fact when we're talking about just nutrition, because I can ask, every single one of our clients, and a lot of them do really, really, really well with their nutrition. But if at any given moment, I just texted somebody right now and said, hey, what are you eating for lunch? Which should be like now. And they're going to say, I don't know. I'll find something. That's happening to you. You didn't plan for that. You didn't do that. That's not something that's really, I mean, imagine if you weren't the one controlling the wheel of your car, you just kind of let the road come at you. Imagine how far you would get before it's like absolute chaos. Okay. So I don't think people choose. They don't make choices, at least when they're about to eat something. I think people set themselves up by making choices way before. So you said, great point, when you go to the grocery store, you're making a choice there to then make a choice further down the road. So if you choose to buy chips and salsa, like you said, instead of like your lean proteins, let's say, you've already made that choice. But where we're kind of thinking about nutrition is literally when we get over the table, over the plate. And then people are expecting themselves to be able to say no to the chips and salsa. Well, I mean, regardless of how, if chips and salsa are healthy or not or whatever, that's no place to be now thinking about, you know, nutrition. That's not it. That's not the time. It happened way before. That's like a pitcher like thinking about his mechanics as the ball is leaving, you know, his finger. That's insane. That's insane. It's you would hope that as the ball leaves the finger, all of the training that he's done for years beforehand is going to guide that thing right to where he wants it. And it's the same thing with anything else. But this isn't a foreign concept to people. It just so happens that in terms of nutrition, everybody's so stuck with the thing on the plate instead of planning for it. You know, pretty much everybody has a job. They all have something that they're good at or that they like doing, whatever. Every single piece of life requires some sort of planning ahead of time to set you up to do anything later on. You know, we spoke about this interview a couple days ago. What if randomly at 12:29 you texted me and said, "Hey, you want to hop on an interview?" It's most of the time that's probably not going to work out very well. You know, so we kind of expect that with minimal planning whatsoever, and not even minimal planning, with like negative planning. So like people are setting themselves up for failure by going out, like you said, and buying those types of things, knowing full well that at some point they're going to enjoy that thing. So if we kind of reverse engineer that, what would be the obvious choice? Well, don't buy those things in the first place, because we don't make decisions at the plate. We just eat what's there, myself included. You put a brownie in front of me, and this happened last night, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it every damn time. And you should eat it. You absolutely should. It just shouldn't be there all the time. You know? So it just shouldn't be your first choice. So essentially what you have to do is, for the same thing that we do, here's another bloated response for you. For the same thing that we do in terms of getting people healthy, getting them to exercise, better nutrition, all we really do is we remove kind of like obscurities and kind of roadblocks for people. You know, we try to make things as easy as possible. So like you said, you can kind of teach and learn yourself. That's the only way it's going to get done. You know, if your teacher was constantly like trying to teach you addition and it was constantly like 2 + 2 = 4 every time and didn't let you do it once on your own, you're not going to learn it, which means you're not going to be able to do 2 + 3. So we're constantly just removing roadblocks to allow people to get things done on their own. Now we use that same exact thing, kind of, principle for your nutrition. You have to put roadblocks in front of yourself to stop you from the actions that you don't want to take. So I tell people all the time that, like, you know what, I can't not eat an entire bowl of ice cream before bed. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't you try this? If you take the ice cream right now in your fridge and just throw it out, that's a whole other thing we can talk about, but we won't. Throw it out right now. There's no ice cream now in the house. That's like your home base, okay? If every single night you want ice cream, go out and get ice cream. Make it a thing. Make it awesome. Go to Cold Stone. Take the entire family. Eat a gallon of ice cream every single night. I dare you. Are you going to do it every night? No, because you have to get in the car. You have to get the family together. You have to go out and drive. There's time, you got to stand in line. But I will say this, the experience of going out to get Cold Stone is way better, way better. The ice cream just tastes better for some reason than if you were just standing in front of your fridge, like hating yourself because you ate an entire gallon of ice cream. So essentially just not having the ice cream in the house is just one kind of roadblock that it's not ice cream bad, it's just that if there's something there and if you go looking for ice cream and there happens to be like a delicious, healthy meal that you made last night for leftovers in there, you're going to eat that thing most
Yeah.
of the time. And sometimes you'll go out for ice cream. Fine. But I guarantee you'll be a million times better off, one over the other for sure.
Definitely. And you mentioned early in your answer, like if you called up any of the people there and asked what they were having, I am going to volunteer what I had for breakfast, which was a Quest bar and a Starbucks refresher. Which, I got my protein in. I did, but instead of, grabbing cookies and stuff at the store, I got a protein bar. So it's about choices and making sure that you prepare ahead of time, which is basically all of what you said. I know that like the response of just get rid of it out of the house. A lot of people's response is, oh, well, I'll eat it and then it'll be gone, but you're still eating it and you're going to buy it again. At least that's what I've heard from people. Oh, I have it right now, but it'll go away. Have you come across that one?
Yeah, I think that everyone thinks that there is an infinite amount of time that they have to get something done, and there's an infinite amount of willpower to be had for them to get it done. And I don't think either of those things are true. It's the same thing that keeps people from starting something on a Friday. Like I'll start on Monday. Like our entire world is just is like built around going from Monday to Friday. Like Saturday's the weekend. I think actually now that a lot of us aren't at work and or are working every single day, it's kind of fun to see the play out here, because there aren't really any weekends or weekdays anymore. It's kind of nuts. But that being said, you're totally right. But the problem is that I find that when it's an action that to not be the best thing for you, it's much less about the action and it's more about the kind of psychology behind the action in and of itself. It's essentially a battle with your, for lack of a better way to look at it.
Cut out for like 1 second, but go back like one sentence. So, it's a battle of. Can you hear me? Hello?
Did I lose you there for a second?
For a second, but we're all good now. So
no, I don't have your audio.
Keep going.
How we doing?
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Good.
All right.
I think that was totally my fault. I'm on a cell phone and I got a phone call and I declined it, and I think that's what screwed up. So
no worries. Just go back like one sentence. You said it was a battle of, and then it cut out for a second.
For lack of a better term, it's a battle of willpower. So it's a constant battle with yourself, internally. And every action or no action, whatever that is conditioning you to do something more and more, or not do something more and more as you go. Now, the more that I think that decision is conscious, essentially the greater the effect of that thing will be. So I use, an example of my own, because I've never been like hard into drugs or anything like that. So, but we can kind of, take some things from, addiction. So for instance, I played college sports. Huge thing in college sports, I'll totally throw it out there, is dipping. Okay. So I used to dip all the time during college, but every single time that I would come home, nobody at home dipped. So I wouldn't dip at home. It'd be like a month or 2 months where I wouldn't, dip at all. But then at school, I was dipping all the time. And then it got to the point where I started doing it at home once I graduated, and it got to and for months I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll quit. No big deal. Like I'm not addicted or anything. That's just crazy. Why would I be addicted? I've had cigarettes before. I'm not addicted to those, that type of stuff. And then 2 or 3 years after, I'm like, damn, I'm doing this every day, like a tin every 2 days. It was nuts. And I was spending a lot of money too. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, after this tin, I'm done. I would finish the tin. I would throw the tin out, done. And then what would happen? On the way home, I'd stop and get another tin. It wasn't until I decided, I'm not going to say there's no kind of leeway. It wasn't until I said, I'm actually going to buy this tin, put one in, and I threw the whole thing out. And tins are like $10 now. Threw the whole thing out, And it wasn't until I did that I actually let go of the thing in and of itself, and not just the idea of the thing in and of itself. It wasn't until then, and then it was done after that cold turkey. So it would be akin to like, after this pack of cigarettes, I'm done. No, throw the entire thing out now. After this tub of ice cream, I'm done. No, throw it out now. So I'll tell you right now, the positive action of like just looking your crutch in the face and saying like, go screw yourself, is enough to override so much of like the negative, or the, I guess it's positive conditioning, but the conditioning that you had for that single action. You're just like blowing it up in its face. So to say I'll start then, or I'll finish that and then I'm done, never works, because you're letting that habit win, because you know what you're going to do. So what you actually have to do is, almost on a whim, like I just tried to make you do before, you have to say, you know what, squats, 10 of them, go, bang. Like, it has to be done.
Yeah.
And it's enough of a spark to kind of change the habit. So that's why we say, we ask people when we do like nutrition questionnaires and stuff, it's like, are you willing to go into your fridge and throw everything out right now? Because if the answer is no, and it's totally fine if it is, if the answer is no, you're not ready to make the change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's fine. You're not always ready to make the change. Even if you need to make the change, you're not always ready to make the change. I think that was the biggest thing. Yeah. People say all the time, I'm done after this one. I can quit anytime. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it all comes back to the accountability that we were talking about earlier, and being accountable for, obviously, in this case, your nutrition.
Yeah.
So we have another question. It says, can you make substantial progress by not counting calories and macros, either to gain or cut weight?
Yes, absolutely. So either way, obviously gaining weight, you need to be in a caloric surplus, which means you're eating more than you're burning, essentially. And to cut weight is the opposite. So when we're talking about total body weight, like if you were to step on a scale, that's like, all of the tissues in your body, water, even all of that stuff. Calories, well, tissue, so water wouldn't count in that. So tissue, bone, ligament, tendon, muscle, fat, whatever. Hopefully it's all fat, but that's calories. If we're talking about like which tissue we lose and or gain, then other things start to matter, like macronutrient breakdown, timing, things like that. But for the most part, again, we have to look at everything like, what's the pink elephant in the room? If you don't address that one first, then the other ones aren't really going to matter, at least from a philosophical standpoint. So do you have to actually count calories? No. But what we like to do is not even count macros, but we like to, like I said, what I was talking about before, and kind of building that meal, we like to get people like a portion that they can see and compare to something, which inevitably will have a certain amount of macros, which inevitably will have a certain amount of calories. So we kind of manage calories from like a more pragmatic standpoint, almost from like a bottom at the plate up, and not a here's the calories, so let's build the way down. You know what I mean? So we're not actually counting calories like on one of those, we call it thing with a little counter, not one of those. We're accounting for calories, but just from a more pragmatic standpoint. That being said, if you don't account for calories, either through a macro standpoint or something like that, you will not be able to gain or lose weight. At least it won't be repeatable. You might get lucky, like people get lucky all the time, saying, I cut out carbohydrates and I lost 20 pounds. Therefore, carbohydrates are evil and cutting them out will help me lose 20 pounds. Well, yes, you cut out carbohydrates and didn't replace them with anything, so you lost 20 pounds. Totally fine. Yeah, great. It worked for you. That's fantastic. But you could have done the same by cutting out the same amount of calories from fat. You also could have cut out those carbs and added the same amount of calories from even protein, which is great for you, but even protein, you're still not going to lose weight. So whatever you do, I would say make it as pragmatic as possible, but you have to manage calories. There's no way around it.
Yeah, and I know, like, with what you're saying with, you can take out fats, you can take out carbs, you can take out all of these things. I know that there's a bunch of diets out there. There's keto, there's low carb diets, there's all these different things. Is it more so about just affecting the numbers of what you're eating, or is it more so like, hey, I'm going to go keto now, and all I'm going to eat is like protein and what is it, fats, I believe.
Yeah,
Like,
keto.
yeah, like at its core, good nutrition is just making sure that you have the right amount of the different things, correct?
Yes and no. I do think that it's goal specific
Mm-hmm.
and it's individual specific.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, what it actually ends up looking like solid nutrition for each person. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're all humans. We're all about the same size. We all have, internal organs that kind of work the same way. It's like more than half of it is exactly the same. It should really look all the same. It's not like we're trying to feed 1,000-pound grizzly bear. Who obviously needs more calories. We look at people like, Michael Phelps, and we're like, oh, he ate 10,000 calories that one day. Like, that's still nothing compared to like what a whale eats. So the nutrition isn't going to vary all that much between people. We need a certain amount of protein, we need a certain amount of fats, we need a certain amount of fiber, a certain amount of vitamins and minerals. And then off of that, it's all dependent on like individual differences in body weight and, um, pathologies. Somebody maybe has diabetes or something like that, hyperthyroidism, all types of things like that, where you can make small adjustments. And then, of course, it's goal dependent. Because if somebody's trying to gain muscle, let's say, they're not going to be eating the same as somebody even the same size, if they're trying to lose fat. So yeah, it's definitely individual, but for the most part, yeah, most people, they need a certain amount of protein, they need a certain amount of fats. So it's relatively simple. When you're talking about specific diets, I think you should choose not really based on the goal
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but based on what works for you, because you're never going to get to the goal if it doesn't work. Like if you need carbohydrates to stick to any kind of plan, which most people actually do because they're
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. They're a fantastic source of energy. So if you work on your feet all day and you have no carbs, like you're not going to do well at all.
Yeah.
Let them, forget about your nutrition goals and aesthetic goals, but you're not going to do well at work either. If you sit on your butt all day for 12 hours at a desk, you probably don't need as many carbs. That doesn't mean that carbs are evil for either
Mm-hmm.
person. Um, so it's really what works for you. Now, what I will say again, more on the psychological side of it, is that whatever it is, you have to be sold out on, because I think actually for whatever reason the common thread of everything that we talked about over the last hour has really been accountability, and trying to kind of like fix stuff so you get things done. And I think that the same holds true here. Like, we're not necessarily making choices. We're managing choices beforehand, and then our emotive responses at any given moment while something is in front of us really makes the decision for us. You know, so I think if we're looking at it that way, you need to be sold out on the idea that this thing is going to work, and we kind of lose the idea of that. So like, if you start a diet, I don't care what it is. Like, what does the research say about keto in terms of like losing fat over any other diet in this with the same amount of caloric deficit? It is not better for losing fat than anything else. It's almost the same. So if they're almost the same, you need to pick the number one that works for you, and the number two, the one that you're going to sell out on, so you can actually do it. An imperfect plan followed relentlessly, and no pun intended there, is way better than the perfect plan not followed at all. So if you do keto, and if you're someone who does keto, and every single time you have a gathering or something, you're like, yo, I started keto and I lost 10 pounds this week, and like nothing else is better than keto. And then I'm like, well, what the research says, and they're like, no, I'm not going to listen to you. Keto's the only way. That's what you need. It almost needs to be a dogmatic view on something for you to be emotionally connected enough to it to actually get something done. And that's true for so many things, not just
Mm-hmm.
nutrition and exercise. You know what I mean? So I think that's an important thing that people overlook. They're looking for the best thing, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that they're so emotionally connected to other things that they don't even realize. Like, you can ask somebody a question about something personal and they just like attack you, and that's how you know that that's what they're connected to emotionally. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like digging after an alcoholic about their drinking problem. What do? They attack you immediately.
Yeah.
They have to find something else. Generally, people are addicted to stuff. that they find that same emotive response for. It's like, and that could be exercise or something like that. So it has to work pragmatically for you, and you have to sell out on it. Any one of the diets will work.
Yeah, and I'm it's really like interesting that everything keeps coming back to accountability. So we're coming up to like that hour point. So I was wondering if you had any closing thoughts that you would like to, leave people with from our talk. I know a lot of what we've discussed today is accountability, and I even went through and changed all of the titles on everything too. That this is
Yeah.
a talk about accountability. So any thoughts that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Well, I think we can kind of pull things from the specific questions and answers that we had.
Mhm.
I think that the biggest or the common denominator between all of it was just action, always. And that's very easy to say, is just say, like, do something. But it's easy and hard, almost at the same time. But all it really requires is that you condition yourself to, as soon as you have a thought, whether that thought is correct or not, as soon as you have a thought, act on it. So if you have like, we had a conversation and you were like, well, I should have worked out, bam, like, that's your own in against your own kind of like negative feelings and actions and habits and whatever. You just opened a crack in your own, like, kind of armor. You have to attack it immediately. You also have to attack yourself. So, like, again, the other day I was sitting upstairs and I was like, oh, it's 10 o'clock and I didn't work out. Boom, that's my action trigger. So essentially you set yourself traps where you have to do stuff. It's like some people, like the Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man. Like, anytime he was asked something, he had to say yes. You just create that construct for yourself where it's like, every single time I have a thought that's related to nutrition or whatever, do it now. Don't say I'll do it 5 minutes from now. Just do it, even if it's one of them. If you're in the middle of a conversation and you start talking about working out and you're like, I haven't worked out in a day, do a couple squats. That builds the habit. So just constantly build in action triggers like that. And you won't even have to hold yourself accountable. You'll be accountable to some sort of, like, outside, thought process principle that's just, like, hanging over you at all times, that for whatever reason you decided to say, this is how I'm going to live my life for now, like becoming a yes man. I think that's the best way to go about it. And then from that, over that consistency, not only will you build, obviously, on those habits, the cumulative effect of all of the stuff that you're doing is just going to be, it's really what you're looking for. You're not looking for the effect of a single workout or a single healthy meal. You're looking for the cumulative effect over months, years, decades. And that doesn't require, crazy action today. It requires that you just change the way that you think a tiny bit to be like, I'm going to do something imperfectly right now. That's really, all it is. So even if it's just a couple squats, even if it's you take a bite of a friggin' green pepper or something that you have to get your vegetables in, it's all about just once you have a little chink in the armor to build a better habit, just go and do it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
I think that was a great way to sum up our conversation. Everything comes back to accountability, and it's on you as a person to do that. It's not on, for instance, you as my trainer. It's not someone's mom. It's not any of those things. It is yourself, and taking that step towards whatever your goals are.
Absolutely. And I think I can add one more thing in there too, because we did already, discuss that it's much easier to be held accountable by someone else other than yourself. And that's why I think it's important to view yourself in the future as a completely different person. So you are responsible. You have to treat yourself like you are someone that you are responsible for caring for in the future. Like, so there isn't a time where, like, my children are crying where I'm just going to say, man, screw it. I'm just going to let them cry for the next hour. I'm not going to feed them. And people will go above and beyond for, like, their dogs, even more so than their children, above and beyond for their dogs, buy them all the crazy expensive stuff, whatever. Like, they're caring for somebody more than they would ever care for themselves. That's a wonderful thing for humans to do, but you have to treat yourself a week from now, 6 years from now, whatever it happens to be, like you're somebody completely different, like you're a stranger that you are responsible for caring for. And then you can hold yourself accountable. So it's like you in the now are the trainer, and then you in the future is the client. You know what I mean? So you can kind of, you can trick yourself into those little actions and holding yourself accountable That way, if you just switch the way that you view things a tiny bit. Last thing that I will add, if we're talking about accountability and nutrition, we're actually going to be starting. You don't know about this either, so here's an official announcement. We don't know when this whole thing is going to end, but we do want to help people, build some accountability in nutrition. So within like the next 2 weeks, we're going to start a transformation challenge. They're going to be like a 21-day challenge, not the normal transformation challenge that we usually do, which is awesome. But this one's going to be more of like a nutrition overhaul. So we're going to have like daily, multiple times a day kind of accountability, like workouts, building nutrition. And then at the end of it, of course, there's going to be a prize. We're going to see how many people can get, each step, the best meals essentially, for 21 days. So that's going to be an awesome way for people to kind of build in the habits, with the help of a coach, obviously, to kind of help them along, just take away at those habits, kind of all, along the same vein that we were talking about today with accountability. So that's coming up next.
I am officially saying now on the live stream, and you have me on camera, that I am going to be a part of this challenge and I am going to do it. So now I have told the world, and now I'm accountable.
That's it. Now you're accountable.
I am accountable. So thank you so much for coming on today, Brandon. If people want to get a hold of you, or I guess Eric, whichever, how can they find you guys? And Eric says that he's holding me accountable too, for this challenge now. But how can people reach out and find you?
They can't. We're off the grid. That's it. They can't find us. No, so you can follow us on Instagram at Relentless LI. The tag is down there. You can look us up on Facebook, Relentless Strength Performance. I would say you can come to our gym and just walk in, but you can't do that right now. It's here. Or you can email us at info@relentlessli.com. And check us out on YouTube as well. We have some videos up there. Again, Relentless Strength Performance.
I've got most of those links down there, and I'll add your YouTube in after this. So thank you so much for coming on today, and I'm so excited to see the new gym. For people who aren't familiar with Relentless, they had a place in Mineola, and right before the pandemic happened, they announced that they're going to move to a new location. So I know you guys have been busy preparing that for all of us, and at least you had the time to put it together. That's the one thing I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think when all this is over, we're going to find out if this was all a blessing or a curse, at least as far as, obviously, at least as far as the gym is concerned. So we'll see. We'll see. Well,
I'm hoping for all of our sakes that it's a blessing. But thank you so much for coming on, and I will talk to you in a bit. If you stay on for a second after I do the closing, I'll thank you in private.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. So thank you so much to Brandon for taking the time to talk to us about accountability today. I think that this is probably one of the more important topics to think about, because right now is a transition period for a lot of people where some people are taking advantage of it, some people aren't. But a lot of what we're doing right now at home really comes back to accountability. Are you, exercising? Are you doing projects around the house? Are you cleaning? Are you cooking? What are you doing, and what are you holding yourself accountable for to either improve for the future, or, you're not going to be getting those things done? Obviously, Brandon had a more eloquent way of saying it, but, just keep an eye on what you're doing and try your best to hold yourself accountable. So if you jumped into this live late and want to watch it back, you can watch it here on the Celia Werner Productions page. You can watch it on YouTube. All of these links are in the description: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. And if I can find any other places to put it, it might be there. So thank you guys for watching, and be sure to give us a like, a comment, or a share, because we are doing these broadcasts daily, and I would love to have some more people that we can, get the messages out to and educate. So I hope you have a great day, and I will see you guys next time.